Good morning, Year 5. Welcome to week 3 of remote learning. I hope it's freezing outside. I hope you had a really nice weekend and you're able to stay warm today. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my screen for this shared reading lesson. Okay, so all right, we'll always start off with our learning intention and success criteria. So we are learning to understand a text more deeply by making inferences and identifying evidence from the text to support these inferences. And you'll remember from our time in Year 5 and across other grades that an inference is making a judgment or making a connection that the author has not said or stated. It's implied. So an inference is a statement or judgment that is not directly stated in the text. Okay, and you need to actually read between the lines. So a good reader makes inferences by reading between the lines and using clues from the text, really to work out what the author is trying to say without actually stating it completely. And in order to, when we make an inference, we really do need to identify evidence from the text to support that inference. So if you're identifying evidence, you're actually looking for directly stated information in a text which helps you to make that specific inference. Okay, so when you're identifying evidence, evidence is the actual sentence or statement that's actually written in the text that will help you make that inference. The inference is what's not stated in the text, and I will show you more clearly through our shared reading lessons this week. And our success criteria is to be successful, we can read and understand the text, which is our lesson today, purely unpacking what this text is. I also like to include in our success criteria is to identify the purpose of the text. And the reason I do this for any text that I'm reading is because if I know why it's being written and who it's being written for, I get a better understanding of what it is trying to tell me. So these two we'll be looking at today. And then the next one, which we'll pick up tomorrow, is actually thinking deeply about what we are reading and use evidence in the text to make reasonable inferences. Okay, let's open our text today. So this text is actually from the internet. It's a website and it's got the heading Tundra. So I'm not reading it right now. I'm actually just skimming and scanning, looking at the headings. And maybe the first sentence or so, just to kind of orient myself with the text, and so I know really what I'm about to read. It's also good for making predictions. So tundra, if I've got location, weather, plants and animals, it to me is structured a bit like an information report where it's talking about a particular thing. So straight away with these subheadings, and like the title and the photos that I could see, I'm starting to think that this is a factual text or an informative text, and it's going to be about a biome which is the tundra. So this text was chosen to actually help you with your writing, the ebook, but also with your geography lesson too, because it's going to give you some information about a tundra if you decide to choose this, this topic. And I've just kind of just inadvertently touched on what the purpose of this text is too. So I'm going to start reading now. Tundra, location. The tundra biome is the coldest of all biomes. It is also quite big. The tundra covers about 1/5 of the land on Earth. The word tundra comes from a Finnish word, so a word from Finland, that means treeless plain, which is a good description of the biome. Tundra biome is located in the Arctic Circle, which is a circle that surrounds the North Pole. But that is not the only place we can find freezing cold temperatures and a few animals. In Antarctica and other cold environments, there are areas that can be described as part of a tundra biome as well. Weather. The tundra is the coldest and driest of all the biomes on Earth. There is very little rainfall in the tundra. It rains less than 10 inches a year. All right, I'm starting to question inches. I don't really know inches. I wonder what that is in centimeters. And to be honest, I actually don't know the answer, so I might Google that. So if I say 10 inches in centimeters, it's 25.4 centimeters. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to read that with an Australian thinking, so I can kind of work out just how much that is. So it was 25.4. So it rains less than 25.4 centimeters a year. That's interesting. So if I think about it in like terms of a 30 centimeter ruler, it rains less than almost one of those a year. Winters here are long and summers short. Sometimes they only last for 6 to 10 weeks. Oh, that's really interesting. Straight away, I don't want to live in a tundra. In the winter, the temperature can reach minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or in brackets, that's actually minus 45.5 degrees Celsius. That is really cold. So when I think about here, it might get to maybe minus 1, minus 2, I could be wrong, as the coldest. If I think of minus 45.5, that's going to be really cold. And we think our winters are bad. Because the tundra is so close to the North Pole, summer days are 24 hours long. Oh, isn't that interesting? That because the tundra is so close to the North Pole, the summer days are 24 hours long. So that means that there would be no darkness. So that is actually a good reader thinks about inferences as they are reading, and I just made an inference. So the fact that if summer days are 24 hours long, I'm using that evidence, that sentence here, summer days are 24 hours long, to make the inference that there is no night. So I'm going to put a comment here that using this evidence, I can make the inference that there is no nighttime during summer in the tundra. And that's because we know that one day and one night is 24 hours. So that would mean that there would be no nighttime if it's all day. Okay, I am going to try and stop myself from making these inferences because I just, from now, because I want to leave that till tomorrow's lesson. I want to just get through reading and understanding this text. Summer temperatures rarely get above 10 degrees Celsius, just enough to thaw the surface of the ground. So if I know thaw, if I thaw out an ice block, it means that it's like melting. So it's just enough to melt the surface of the ground. What a place for a summer vacation. In the summer, the soil becomes very soggy from melted snow and rain. The moisture sinks into the ground, which is called permafrost. The permafrost lies 6 inches below the ground and is frozen for most of the year. The top layer of the permafrost thaws, but the bottom layer of gravel and finer materials stays frozen all year, which keeps moisture from rain on the surface of the ground. And I've got a photo, a nice photo of a rock and a plant around the rock. I might be able to find more information. I noticed that there's no caption about this. It's just where the photo was taken from. Charles Weber at California Academy of Sciences. That's interesting because a caption would have really helped me to understand what I'm looking at as a reader. So plants. You would think that plants would never live or survive in this biome, but the answer is quite a surprise. There is low diversity in organisms that live here. So I've got these words, low diversity. So I can look inside this word because I can see a base word, diverse. So if the base word is diverse, and I know that if we're diverse at school, it means we come from a range of backgrounds, a range of different origins and nationalities. So if we are diverse, a high diversity, it means that we're all very different and we come from different backgrounds. Whereas if we are low diversity, it means that we are all quite similar. We have the same background. Now, if I transfer that knowledge of that word to here, there is low diversity in organisms that live here. Low diversity must mean that there are not too many different types of organisms. So another word for an organism must be, if we're talking about plants, it must be plants, or even I can move an organism to an animal or a fungi. An organism is normally a living thing. So there is low diversity in organisms that live here, but many still flourish. That's interesting. So if it's low diversity, means that there's not much variety. They're the same. But I like this but. So it means that there's going to be something that goes against it. So there is low diversity. So there's not many plants that survive, but many still flourish. Now, I don't really know that word, but if I can substitute another word in there to try and help me make it make sense. So there's a low diversity in organisms that live here, but many still flourish. So maybe that means many still grow. Okay, so many still, but I don't think it's just grow. I think it might mean a stronger word than that, like thrive. So there is a low diversity in organisms that live here, but because of the but here, many still flourish. I actually think that means that they're going to thrive or do really well here. Many lichens, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't sound right. So I'm going to skip this word. I'm going to keep reading on to try and work out what it could be. So many something, mosses, and small shrubs flourish in the Arctic tundra. So I'm going back to this word here, many lichen. Okay. So I know that this is lichen, mosses, and small shrubs. And that's because these are technical words. So I know that a small shrub is a tree, like a little bush type plant. Mosses are those green kind of furry, fluffy things that you see growing on rocks. Lichen is another type. I believe that would be another type of organism, like a plant, but like a how would you describe it? Kind of like maybe a moss that would actually grow near rocks or so. I wonder if there's lichen in this picture, and that's what they were trying to show us. Let me see if I can. Very good to have Google here, because I'm going to actually quickly show you what lichen is. This is lichen. So you might actually see it in on trees or on rocks. It's like a mossy kind of growth. And they actually call it similar to plants. It's in the plant family. Okay. The plants that live in the harsh permafrost soil usually adapt to the weather by being short and grouped together to resist winds and to be protected. The growing season in the tundra is short. So if I think growing season, it must be the season in which plants can actually grow and survive. So the growing season in the tundra is short and lasts up to 60 days. That's 2 months a year that they would actually grow. Tundra plants get their energy from the sun through photosynthesis, like all other plants, but have adapted to low temperatures and low light intensities. If something is low light, it means that there's not much sun. So then they've adapted, they're used to not getting much sun or much light. Compared to plants in other biomes, they use a minimal amount of energy. That's interesting. Animals. You may think the tundra is too chilly for animals, but guess what? It's not. There are actually animals that live in this harsh biome. You might find lemmings, caribou, and Arctic hares in the tundra. Interesting that we see a caribou. I don't normally hear too much about these animals, but my connection goes back to an Alison Lester picture book, Imagine, where you actually have these landscapes with caribou in it. I might even find the book and the page and show you this, but this is what a caribou is. There you go. It's like a deer. Oh, let me see if I can. Yeah, so type of deer. Okay, and Arctic hares. So I know that a hare, like the tortoise and the hare, I'm bringing in my knowledge of that it's a rabbit in the tundra. These animals seem pretty nice, but can you guess which the largest and most dangerous animal is that lives in the tundra? The polar bear. Interesting that the polar bear can survive in the tundra. Polar bears love to eat fish, fatty meat. I think that's supposed to say and fatty meat. That's why I stumbled over it. Fatty foods might not be good for humans, but polar bears need the energy from fat to survive the cold tundra. Seals, at times walrus, and sometimes even belugas, the beluga whale, trapped in open water pockets surrounded by ice, are some of the polar bear's favourite meals. They will also eat berries and eggs in the summer. Polar bears hunt by the power of scent and can smell their food at 32 kilometres away. The stomach of an adult polar bear is so big that it can hold more than 68 kilos of food. Wow, that's more than I weigh. Other predators of the tundra are Arctic foxes and wolves. Some migratory birds also live in the tundra during part of the year. There's a caribou photo. Animals who live in the tundra have special adaptations to survive. Some animals in the tundra are adapted to the climate by breeding and raising their young in the summer. Many animals hibernate or sleep during the worst part of winter to minimize energy loss. Because animals of the tundra are generally migratory, So migratory, I can see the word migrate. So I think it's got to do with they move and they migrate out. So they'll migrate for the winter and then come back. It says this biome's population is constantly changing. Resident animals have to change what they are hunting and eating as the seasons change. The food chain in the Arctic tundra consists of predators such as owls, foxes, wolves, and polar bears at the top of the chain. Predators hunt herbivores, plant-eating animals such as caribou, lemmings, and hares. Mosquitoes, flies, moths, grasshoppers, Arctic bumblebees, and other insects are at the bottom of the Arctic food chain. Many birds feed on these insects. Okay, so going back to the success criteria, I have read and understood the text. I am going to leave the identifying the purpose till tomorrow's lesson, just given the time. Okay, thanks Year 5, and I'll be back with a video tomorrow.